Hello, Dr. Yeager. Hello, class, and other viewers on the internet. I'm out here for my geography in your own backyard final, and the creek that flows into a river that I was under the belief was perennial is actually ephemeral, and here's what I mean by that. Give me 1 second. You can see these rills and gullies from where water used to flow towards the direction of my paddle. I've never seen this creek dry like that, so it is not perennial after all. It is an ephemeral creek, and you can see towards the middle, or even here in the ground where I'm pointing, you'll see the little gullies and rills from where water flow was. And you'll even see proof of some desalination or salitation where flowing water brings debris such as bigger and heavier rocks, and when it dries up it stops. I'm gonna keep hiking that way in the direction of my finger towards where the perennial river is, but maybe it'll be more dried up. And in the distance you could see some clues of mass wasting via erosion. You can kind of see here on the shoreline, and on the other side of this bridge there is a little pond over here that still has some water in it. So anyway, I'm gonna walk downstream and we'll see if there's water. If there's water like there was a couple months ago, perfect. And if not, we'll just have to go on an audible. And we could see here some penetration from water just dripping into this rock over and over and over. And then it becomes very porous, and it creates these little holes you can stick your fingers through. This comes out on the other side. So I just wanted to make that observation while I was walking here in the dried up stream. And oh look, there's some proof of water life. This shell mussel still has color, so I mean it's still a little bit moist actually when you touch it. So proof that there was water in here not too long ago. All right, plenty of more shells. I'll keep my eye out for some fossils out here as well, and I'll check back in with you guys when we get downstream. I'm gonna go ahead and hike it down there. Okay, so I'm further downstream, and where the water used to run very much faster, you'll kind of see this drop off. And I have some more of it right here. Example, it's almost like a nick point, as if the Niagara Falls example we talked about, where I'm pointing with the paddle, is a great example of where fast running water would come down. Notice the rocks are a little bit porous on top, and it would flow, hence why it's concave. It was harder for this rock on top to erode, so once the water line was here and the water flowed in the direction of the paddle towards me, it actually chipped away and made it concave. And then right here, this is a tree root. So based off of the way the rocks are and how everything's fallen, what I'm assuming happened is the tree root got in there and it caused that natural waste process, right? The biomechanical waste, the tree root grew in as water was growing. You could actually see where these rocks here fell off the edge, where the tree root is. If you did it in rewind, it would be right about up here. Is where the tree used to stand. And I'm gonna keep walking down more. I don't think there's any more water. So maybe this all was ephemeral. I thought this was perennial. This is the first time I've ever seen it dry. Hello again, class. So my paddle is 78 inches tall and I am 5'8", about 68 inches tall. And you can see this wall behind me, this giant rock, if you will. So that means when this stream is full, this is again the first time I've ever seen it dry since I've lived here, when I moved here in 2017. So 8 years is the first time I've seen it dry. Typically by now, this is where it is a flowing river, and it's about 78 inches deep when it is full. The reason I say that, this is the height of my paddle, 78 inches. And as you could see, the water level's typically here. And you'll see some erosion right here. It's a little bit softer. Look at the limestone. It just kind of comes right off as you play with it, right? Leaves that dust residue. It's even porous. And up here it's more jagged, and it's not giving me as much debris. You can see some of the cracking happening organically from water and weathering and mass waves. This is eroding away. I mean, literally, just see how easy it comes apart. And there's even some, I want to say this is mussel or something left from an animal. It might be fish scales, I'm not too sure, but some more organic matter right there. And I'm gonna keep humping down. Good thing Uncle Sam prepared me. I got my inflatable kayak and I'm just carrying dead weight at this point. I don't think I'm gonna find any running water, but it doesn't mean the final is lost. I can look for fossils and we can look for other signs of mass wasting. So I'll check back in a few minutes. All right, awesome. I finally found the stream where it picked up, and it is perennial after all. I've just never seen it this dry. But I thought this would be a good point. It's been maybe a half a kilometer since I last stopped, and we talked about the height of the water being 78 inches. So this is a perfect time, I think, to talk about the saltination process, which of course is when there's flowing water, or like in a river, for example, and the deeper and faster it flows, the bigger and heavier the rocks it can move in the saltation process. And the reason I wanted to stop and talk about that right now specifically is because this is where the drought ends and the perennial, this is where the ephemeral stream and the perennial stream meet. So because of that, there's a lot of displaced debris, rocks, sticks, other things. I did see a few beer bottles, unfortunately. I'm looking at one right now. And some of the rocks are smooth and rounded, and the reason would be is this is where they stop, or this is where the water really flows. So without a further ado, some of that saltation process, right? These loose rocks, there's a lot more over here, right? And then here's the ephemeral and perennial where it meets for now. Last time I stopped and talked, I was right over there, and I'm about 1.5 kilometers in from the bridge. So I'm gonna follow this and see how much further it goes, see if it's worth setting up the kayak and going more. There's gonna be some erosion right there from previous water lines, and it's the same type of limestone rock, right? It's very susceptible to erosion with water. And you'll see a little bit more rills. As I was walking through in some of this grass, I was seeing more rills, more shells, and proof of life from the water. So I'll see you guys here in a couple minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna keep following it downstream and see if it gets to the big river or not. Typically in another 0.5 kilometers where it really opens up and it's a really wide stream / river. All right, class. Well, this is not a fossil, but it is some organic waste. This is the spine, and it looks like the ribs and tailbone. I want to say that's what that is by the paddle. There's the ribs up here of something, and this is where water was. So it's hard to tell if this animal drowned or if it was eaten here and picked clean by the birds, but such is the way of life, right? I'm gonna go ahead and continue on. I just thought it'd be interesting to show the bones. I did not find the fossil. Ooh, oh, I'm actually stepping on more bones. This, I was just stepping on that. That would be a foot of, and there's the leg, right? Like the tibia, fibula, femur. Looks like something with claws, maybe possum, raccoon, something like that, maybe a cat, who knows. But I imagine that leg was in that hip socket. Oh, look, and there's the other bone as well. So lots of, ooh, another piece of the bone right here. All right, before I get distracted, just wanted to stop and share that with y'all. And just a couple, maybe like 40, 50 meters away from where I found the bones, I found another great example of tree roots causing rockfall because of the biomechanical waste. So let's go ahead and flip it. You'll see this giant down tree. It has a big crack in it, and the roots actually go right here. And then there's another down tree, and there's some rockfall. So I imagine if you reversed it, a lot of these bigger rocks would go up there. So it looks like right here was one set of tree roots that caused the first rockfall. And there's that second down tree, and its roots are still holding on in these bushes, and it's gonna cause another one. Maybe the next time there's flash flooding or something, I imagine a lot of this is gonna change. Well, class, I was coming from this direction, southbound. What I did not know is there is a man-made, what I assume is a concrete dam. I did not know this existed. I've been coming here for 7-8 years. I've never seen it before. This is supposed to be more downstream. This is supposed to be a river that flows. It's supposed to be a diversion, and it goes into Paradise Canyon, but it is very dry. So, because it's all dried out, it looks like I will not be using my kayak. And instead, we could talk about some of the other denudation we've seen. Here is another of the saltination, right, which is the water flowing through when there is water. It flows through this way towards my hand, and it stops right here. And when it stops, when the water flow stops, all the sediment and all the debris it's carrying, doesn't matter if it's fine sand or if it's more bigger, heavier rocks. But an observation you could make is more towards the center is where you see these bigger rocks. Towards the banks, there's no rocks. It's more soft sand and sediment on both sides of where the river was. And this is about 100 meters wide, so maybe the size of a football field wide usually. And it is all but gone. It does flow south, but I'm not going to keep hiking another couple kilometers through that. Right here we have another great example of the erosion and the different levels of it depending on the water level, and you can see how it's ate away at it over time. And you can see those nick points, and you can see it's similar to the capstone you'd see at a mesa, right, where it's that impenetrable top rock. Now this is limestone, so it's not quite the same type of rock, but when it comes to the waste, and you'll see some nick points in the shadows where it's concave, that's more erosion where the water was typically there as it got lower and lower and lower over time. See another example. So it did go from this is the normal water level to down here where you see more concave and shadows, more into the valley where there's still active water. Bit disappointing because I was out here not too long ago and there was a lot more water than this. So maybe I should have done this at the very, very beginning of the semester. Who knows? And I just wanted to share a final few observations with everyone that's watching. So you'll notice the vegetation, it goes all the way up the side of this cliff here. And I imagine over time with all the shrubbery digging into that limestone, all the roots digging in, that there is going to be more rockfall and biomechanical wasting. And one observation I also want to share, rather another observation, if you look at the gravel and the sediment and the rocks in the dried up stream bed, and you compare it to the vegetation and the rocks around you, you'll notice that it is a lighter color. And I want to say that's because of the erosion, and it's probably limestone sediment, and it's easier to erode once it dries out and it sits there. It gives off that white chalkish color. It breaks down easily because of the acid. It's very acidic when it gets wet with rain and water flow. And you'll see there's another little puddle right here, and you can see some of the rocks sticking out, like this one above my thumb. Notice how smooth it is. It's smooth because water's typically going over it and chipping away at it and rounding it off. Similar to when Dr. Jaeger brought in the broken piece of glass. It wasn't jagged and rough and sharp because it had been eroded by water and all the other sediment and all the other breakdown from going through the riverbed or stream until it stopped where it dried up. So again, just to cover the vegetation that's going to be causing the mass wasting and rockfall, biomechanical waste from its roots digging into the side of it, chipping away at that limestone. You see how porous the rocks are from where it rained and where water is. And then where it's all dried up, it's all very light in color, very sandy, and it's not earthy and brown. It's that limestone sediment. And something else I wanted to talk about is, notice on this side there's nothing but soft sediment, and over there on the opposite side is because this is where it meanders a little bit. It's a little bit of a serpentine, and what ends up happening is when water's flowing and it's more full, that's the cut bank side. So this is the, I want to say Point Break like Patrick Swayze, right? But this is where it's still very fast flowing water on that side, and that's why on the cut bank side it'll cut into the rocks and you'll see that erosion from it and the waste from it. But then on this side, when it slows down, it drops all the sediment and all that soft sand, and it creates almost like a sandbar, like a dune at the shore underwater. So I just wanted to talk about that when it comes to the meandering water that was flowing through. I wanted to show that, but it's dried up substantially in the last couple weeks. I'm only a couple meters away, but I just wanted to share this one with you guys. I'm walking back in the riverbed, and this little pinned, I can't think of the type of name, this little racer lizard, he actually came out of one of the porous rocks, one of the openings there, and I observed him run off out of the rock into the bushes, and then he took off. But it just goes to show how the animals, or nature rather, the creek bed dries out and you have these porous rocks, and nature prevails. Animals move in, and that also contributes to the biological waste as well, or biomechanical waste as well, and denudation and how the animals affect the landscape.